Hi, I wanted to pop on and share a little bit about holographic healing and just what the hologram means, kind of in general, because I think well, I mean, it's too easy to dismiss what you don't understand as, I don't really need to know that. That's not really important. But your hologram is actually, it's the energetic framework that your consciousness is existing in within this, you know, we call it reality, but Real It E. It's like Real It Energy, REEL. I think I've talked about this before. It's your movie script. It's how the world is unfolding around you based on, again, your framework. So, but your hologram, it's, we know that, you make certain decisions around beliefs and you're magnetic. So you're going to pull in evidence, you can call that um, uh, mm, your reticulating activator system, but it's your unconscious bias system, the predictive programming in you that's always looking for evidence to show up in the way you expect, or the expectation effect, right? There's a whole bunch of different language around it. A lot of different studies there. There's been a ton of scientific evidence to back that up. Like that is not just an airy fairy idea, right? So our consciousness is participating within these, again, I call that framework the sum of your parts, but because it's in your DNA as well. It's not just the things you've accepted in this lifetime, because you came in with momentum from your lineages, right? That from your family history, all the lifetimes that your soul has had. You can call them soul extensions, that sort of thing. And we think that we're the only one living right now within that. We'll call it your soul family, right? Or your soul, your monad, right? But it's not operating within a linear time. It's outside time and space, which means that you probably have many lifetimes going on at once all around you. Some might be operating in a different dimension of consciousness, which maybe that dimension of consciousness was 100 years ago when humanity existed as a collective within that dimension of consciousness. Maybe this dimension of consciousness, and some might have been higher and lower, right? And it just doesn't really matter, right? We just know that it's all happening at once. What To really get comfortable working within your hologram, though, you have to know it's all available, all those lifetimes. Some where you maybe had a bit more consciousness in one way, you might look at, the Lemuria or Atlantis, or when we lived, I think, in Mu, that sort of thing. There's different civilizations that we've had, the Aztec, that we know exist. But we're having trouble, bringing in the framework in this reality, because it's vibrating in a space, in a dimension that we're no longer existing and occupying, right, vibrationally. So we might get bleed overs, kind of little bits, and because enough of us are holding that as, oh, those are real. And so we believe in them so strongly that there's a momentum to bring a bit of that in, and it'll show up in a way that maybe it'll be inconclusive, because there's still a lot of people that say, I don't believe, right? So it's, you never, again, unless we all run to one side of the dock, and then we're back in that civilization, we're not going to quite get there. We're going to get people playing with little bits of snippets of information. We'll call it bleed overs or overlapping, where that consciousness is active within us, and we get to work with the gifts or the wisdom or whatever that our soul was. I'm going to say working through the piece of the puzzle that soul or that lifetime, and many lifetimes, maybe, there's a constellation there that your soul came in to experience a certain flavor, or develop certain gifts. And this is where why I'm talking about this in the hologram, and why it's a big deal, is all those lifetimes you developed ways to work with energy. And that's the whole thing. That's what we're here for, right? And so when you see the cave paintings on the wall, and the little, hieroglyphs and all sorts of things like that, symbols, and we know that, they wore jewelry with sigils on them, and, like the evil eye amulets and things like that. So our ancestors put a lot of faith in those sorts of things. And today, people laugh and kind of roll their eyes, right? Because they don't have the faith there anymore. But that doesn't mean, this is interesting, that doesn't mean that there's not a compressed um, um, vibrational instruction set within that symbol, or amulet, or whatever, the sigil, whatever the hieroglyphs, right? Those there's compressed information that every person that ever looked at them and intended those things to mean a certain thing. So a picture, when they say can be 1,000 words, well, we usually associate that to the paintings of our lifetimes, where we've painted in the emotion. Let's say the Mona Lisa, and you look at her expression, and her they study her body language, and there's a whole bunch of things that go into how they interpret that painting. But it's not, it has, whoops, I'm just gonna pause my video because I don't want to forget. Okay, so I'm back. So yeah, so what we think that the Mona Lisa and a lot of the modern day paintings are communicating, and everyone sitting in front of it is going to have an experience of it, but we're not making that painting a fixed, like there's no fixed intention that every person sits in front of that painting gets this energetic, we'll call it code, right? Because we didn't all agree on what it is. I'm hoping it makes some sense there. There's no collective consensus about what it means. And, and you can kind of see it nowadays. There's so many, there's so much in our minds over things that we don't agree on what a lot of things mean anymore. And, we can agree certain songs are happy and they make you want to dance. And there's a kind of an intention in the field around that. And so you put on a certain song and you're probably going to get a lot of people dancing, right? Because there's a bit of an energetic consensus there, right, with that. But in general, we've, even our language, we have taken certain words that used to mean certain things and we've really bastardized them, and like, look at even me using the word bastardized, right? It's no longer what it used to mean, right? We've expanded on it into other things. But our ancestors, and that's just what we've gotten. We're at this time in our consciousness, we have really expanded out and fleshed things out to really nuanced levels, and it's awesome. That's what we came to do. But that amplification started crossing signals. We started, things got lost in the translation, and that's how we're not manifesting as cleanly as maybe our ancestors did, right? So let's say our ancestors did they had a couple symbols. I don't know. They put it, over their headboard at night. And before they went to bed, they looked at that symbol, and that symbol represented them sleeping in their beautiful heavenly state, right? They were merging with, they were in the arms of their angels, or however. Again, I'm just making stuff up. I don't really know. But then, so every child, let's say, or every parent that wanted to put that symbol over their child's bed, whether it's even in the dirt or the painting on the wall, who knows how they did it, right? There was such a consensus that that's what that meant. And enough of them didn't, they weren't studying those symbols in a university and then they needed scientific evidence that it worked, and then it was being debunked, and then there were people going, oh no, that's not right, or they're putting devils over the kids' beds, or that kind of thing. We didn't get so crazy about with our interpretations as we are now. So that symbol had a really clean energetic imprint. And it was connected to in a really beautiful way. It did its thing, right? And the permission. So this is the thing. So we have different ways of speaking to our subconscious. We have the meaning that we assign to the things. We have repetition. We have pictures. Um, we have. I'm just trying to think here. We have. I'm looking around. We have patterns. We have. There's. Like where you start noticing things, in the field around numbers and sort of there's things like that that we can look at and go, oh, that's what that means. And we know the CIA uncovered things, with numbers and stuff, that there were codes that spoke to the subconscious. So there's different ways, like that we'll allow, yet our subconscious can speak in, right? I'm just thinking, what did I write down here? Emotions are the other one. I missed that one. So your emotions, we have certain things that we assign to emotions, right? So that's the thing. So when we are in these states, we're trying to, let's say and a lot of people are doing it where they're doing light language in their symbols and they're drawing their kind of shapes and geometry, sacred geometry. That's another one, right? And we're assigning a meaning to it, right? It's really great if we can work on a lot of senses within there, where you are, maybe you can sing it in, hum it in while you're doing it, give it that intention, because you want to fire up all your subconscious, energetic, interpretive kind of translator systems, right? And if you can work in some of the older systems, or if they just come, let's say you have an inkling for how an older system works, or you have, some people just have knowings, or remembrances, those sorts of things. But, our ancestors, even though we might think they weren't very smart, the thing is they were paving a lot of the lower, I'm going to say, neural pathways, right? That we might be way out here now on, but we're getting them, they're getting crossed with so many other ones. But you want to get right back to the deepest seed, the roots of all those systems. Where did they start? So that's because that's where your manifestation ability is from, right? Everything's been built on that. So yeah, so when we start playing in those unlimited playgrounds again, or how can I shift this and create something new in your life? You want to get into those your deeper layers. So that's why I do it in meditation, but you can do it in the beach, in the water. So I was going to say in the water at the beach, in the forest. You can do it. There's just a lot of different ways. It's funny. I even have downloads happen when I'm vacuuming, because your mind's just kind of doing something. I don't know, and I'm doing something so basic that it's like my mind is busy doing the vacuuming piece, but my subconscious goes, "Oh, she's busy. We can drop in something cool." And all of a sudden I wish I had a microphone as I'm vacuuming, because there's some things where I go, "Oh my God, that was brilliant." And you keep vacuuming, you don't think you're going to forget it because it's so amazing. And then it kind of wisps away and you kind of go, "What was that again?" And so yeah, I might have to start, but I trust that it's all going to come back to me in divine timing and in divine order, kind of thing, right? And that's a program I work with, and I'm installing the paving stones for that. That's what I expect. This version of me expects. Again, I don't know what my subconscious is still working through and with, and you have to give yourself a bit of grace and know that. There's an unfolding happening. And so your hologram, I'm getting back, I keep kind of going off on these little side things. Your hologram can be worked with these unconscious packets of information through those symbols, through those sacred geometry, mudras, right? Um, those all speak to that subconscious of you. And ideally, you want to get out of your mind. You don't want those longer nuances of, oh, that's been debunked over here, or that's been da 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 da, or that's with this tribe and they worship this god over here, and blah blah blah. You don't want to get too heady where you talk yourself out of the early seed, right? Because it's all in your DNA, and their seed points, they didn't have a lot of complexity. So they were working really basic, easy early framework that didn't have a lot of mixed signals, right? Um, so that's the key is you want to be such a clear signal that when you're in this space of imagining and bringing in the new and doing your dress rehearsal for your new timelines, you're not getting a static and interference and um, and that's what polarization is. Polarizes the interference patterns, right? And so you're not getting it all coming in and interrupting your signals, right? So we really want that clarity, that coherence, right? So that's why those practices, when I was talking about working, up and down your pillar, doing the heart coherence piece, all that all resets your hologram. So every time you bring your hologram back into that beautiful, pristine state, you now can work with those deeper layers of those codes, right? And that's how I know when I go into those states and my hands just start moving and it's speaking to that deeper layer of Deborah. I'm not speaking to the outer Deborah that needs to know everything, because gosh, she'd get in the way. I mean, that I was a Virgo. I'm a Virgo. Well, was a Virgo. I want to say because I want to think I've expanded into that round table where all the zodiac signs are welcome and sitting there, and I'm working with the architects. Are the architects? That's interesting. That's a beautiful Freudian slip there. But the archetypes, right? And the different. How we framed out from these early constellations, right? And we kept going out, and different dimensions interpreted them differently, right? That's why we have, the Knights of the Round Table or the disciples. Lots of, we've talked about this before, but 12 shows up in a lot of different ways. They're just some different layers of our consciousness, right? Where we occupied a different vibrational space as a collective, because we keep shifting through the whole solar system. So we never occupy the same space anyway. So, so we just have to learn to be adaptable and take these themes, these flavors, and try to work the puzzle piece through our through the subconscious communications that we've got. But again, those deeper symbols and seeds of how our ancestors may have started a communication with their subconscious. What was their intention with that thing, right? We've got smudge sticks, right? And, people could believe, oh, it's just puffs of smoke or whatever. Or you can go, the elements are also represented within me, and I'm working my abilities as this divine being that I am to work with these elements to actually them in to assist me in clearing the space in that way. But you can do it from a higher framework. Our ancestors did. They didn't get in the way. They didn't talk themselves out of that not working. And it's the same with feng shui, right? There's a lot of things, it's the same with, again, I go back to the mudras. I go back to, the different yoga poses, right? The different, oh, this pose does this and this one does this and this, there's so many different systems, right? Altars, right? When people have all their altars, crystals are a brilliant example of, and it's very interesting because they would hold the imprint of, and they're living symbols. Like, I hope that really makes sense. So we might have a drawing that we do, and it's a symbol, and there's it's compressed information within there, right? Because our ancestors compressed it in that way through every lifetime that built on it. And you can tap into the power of that through your intention with it, right? And you can add on to it as you want. You can expand it out, make it a bit more nuanced, and say, I'd like it to do da 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 da. Well, for me, right? Because maybe it wasn't such a clear symbol, with the ancestors, but yeah. So we can. What was I just speaking about there? I just went off and lost myself. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. Oh, the altars. Okay, there we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love it when my team can show up and help me with that. And the crystals. So that's the thing. So what you put in your space of honoring, right? Again, and they don't, you don't have to have crystals on your altar, but you could, right? Whatever you've put there, you're giving it basically, you've assigned it the intention. So there's going to be an instruction set there, but the symbols are a little bit more like it's like Reiki symbol. There's a vibrational imprint in the field, and they are compressed information that you can access. That's that superconscious, I believe, when we're accessing many compressed packets of information, right? And I know that's what this is doing, right? This is me, not Deborah, but my higher self, accessing different packets of information that were in the field that my ancestors and all the different, goddesses and priestesses and, all the energy masters that put in the field that are being accessed here, right? And but the crystals are beautiful because they are holding those intentions, right? So when you pick up a certain crystal and you read about it and you go, oh, this crystal is really good for this and really good for this, there's a reason why people have picked up that it's really good for those things, because that's how they were used, right? That's how our ancestors worked with them in that way. So you could, I want to say, amplify your intentions with those crystals, right? And like I say, I use them for memory to hold the codes for me. That, let's say I've done something, an intention in a meditation, and I don't want to start the next meditation. I don't want to start from scratch, so I might grab that early crystal that I coded it with, right? Like I had a teacher crystal that I was working with. I had a crystal that I asked to hold the balance of my divine masculine feminine, because I didn't want to have to sit down in every meditation and go through a rebalancing. So I did a really great balancing meditation. It was so awesome. And I thought, okay, I want to lock this in as a default program. So I asked the crystal that I was working with that day to hold that and make that my default. And then every time I brought that crystal in to sit with me, it was holding that as a baseline. We want to shift our baseline in our hologram, right? You're occupying vibrational space, right? You've got a vibrational signature there, and you've got, all those active codes within you, right? And but we're the more we expand and let go and purify and upgrade and optimize and enlighten, right? The more we do that, the more we shift things, which is like, cutting loose a cord and your hot air balloon kind of got to rise a little higher, right? So we are shifting our baseline, right? But how they say, it's like, two steps forward, one step back, right? That has become a program for a lot of people where they accept that spiritual growth or spiritual work is hard, right? And that there's going to be a lot of spit up or suffering, or it's not an easy route or whatever. And our ancestors, let's face it, there's a lot of people before us that did this and had to walk through a lot of those shadows, right? And but they did it for us, right? And that's the thing. Every person on the planet that ever was and ever will be is active right now in your hologram, It's just what constellation and what codes have you allowed to be real, that whether you can access their gifts or not, right? And so that's the key, is to be so fluid and be so non-judgmental of earlier systems that you can get to the seeds, the core, the roots of the intentions. And now that aspect of you that can work with all those gifts, like, again, I know there's an aspect of me that had a lifetime where she was able to, or he, who knows, right? Or many of them, and in this lifetime, I'm taking all those compressed packets of energetic wisdom, and I'm surrendering to my higher self and teams and, my guides and angels, right? That family of light that works with me. And now they can move through those systems and those intentions with a lot more, I'm going to say optimization, but a lot more grace, and not have to have any of the older, you know, um, backlash or spit up or whatever, that sort of thing. You have to be available for it. That's the thing. When you decide, I always say it's kind of like if someone decides they have to work out 3 days a week to be in good shape, or eat a certain diet and to be healthier, that's the program they've installed, right? And spirituality is no different. It's we do know that to be an expert in anything, there is that 10,000 hour rule. But in your meditations, expand your field and love every lifetime you've ever had, every person on the planet right now that there ever is or will be. If you can find love for them, you've expanded yourself so much that you've got the 10,000 hours, right? Because they're not working it from the shadows for you anymore. They're working because you've brought them light. You've brought them, it's the old forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. You've brought them such a beautiful frequencies. You're available to connect from these higher octaves, you're available for it. People might think it's magic, but it's, I think that's what's coming online with all of us, is your superconscious, that ability to know that every system serves you, right? And you can ask for the ones that are the most beneficial for you, ask the ones that are the most beneficial for humanity at this time, and ones that assist Gaia and, brothers and sisters and the stars, or whatever, who, the animal kingdoms, all the elemental realms, the inner earth beings, right? And if you just hand over, let go, surrender to your higher self, to your spirit, and to your mother and father, divine mother, father, right? People, source, creator, God, language. Again, language works with the conscious aspect of us. Our subconscious doesn't speak language, right? That's why it has to use these other symbols and numbers and geometries, and it's always communicating to us. That's the thing. It always is. It's just our conscious has given itself too big a seat at the table, and is dismissed a lot of those other things, right? And it was great. It served us. Boy, did we create a lot of things, right? From our ego consciousness, right? We needed to create a lot of things to solve some of the problems we created, right? So, it's the thing is we don't beat yourself up or anyone else up for what we've done, right? I don't know what this is. That's interesting. Whew. Yeah, we're just letting go. Wow, that felt like a shedding of the old skin. That's really interesting. So this is the morning after the solstice, summer solstice, this video. So the energies are still being worked with. So there's an amplification happening here with this, with the energies, right? So this transmission, just allow it to work through you, and just understand your linear time. You might be watching this even years down the road, and in your linear time, that this window that I'm working in right now, um, there's a lot of energy coming through it, right? And it's very transformative. And the other thing is, you can see yourself, the version of you back at this time, whatever you were doing on this day 2 years ago, getting a bit of a boost, getting an upgrade, where you can re-know the energy of yourself. This is part of the magic of, I think I'll be teaching, in newer teachings, and I am teaching it to a degree, but I think, and I'm learning to embody more of it myself. The thing is, you have to embody what you can teach, right? Otherwise, there's a lot of people that have good theories about holograms, right? But they haven't um, embodied how they work with it yet. They understand it, they can communicate to it, they can say affirmations, they can meditate, and but they haven't embodied the holographic reality yet, where um, everything's in repeated in everything else, right? That's that whole quantum entrainment, right? Quantum entanglement. But it's where there's multiple parallel realities, that sort of thing. We have multiple versions of us and everyone else, right? Once you start experiencing that, where you go, I don't think that, okay, and I'm going to give you an example. In my household, I'll see a story on my phone, and my partner or my husband or my son might show me their phone, and the way I took the story or read the story, it's not going to look the same on their phone. Even like, just look at weather apps. Get all your friends' phones together and put them down, and ask for the weather of that day, and you're going to notice they're not the same. And that's how, it's harder to do it when it's a news story, because everyone wants to think that the news story that they connect with the most, right? That's your confirmation bias. If we want to believe the worst about somebody, and we get a news story that confirms that they really are bad, or something's happening on the world, and your confirmation bias is not someone else's confirmation bias. And you have to get out of your ego and allow yourself, I don't want to say to be wrong. I do allow myself to be wrong, because I always say to, I want to be shown divine truth only, but allow someone else to be right in their reality, right? That they are on it in a different hologram, right? And so they're definitely going to experience things through their beliefs and systems and expectations, and not everyone is expecting the same as we are, right? And so, and I have to honor them there, right? So, because you can't make changes by being in resistance to everyone else's creation. So, just to hold light for them. So, whew, yeah. So just enjoy what's coming through. Oh, nice clearing at the throat chakra. Okay, so you might feel the dragons. Oh, they're lighting me up. The dragons are here. Oh, they're with us. This is your command of energy. This is how you work with energies. Oof. Yeah, beautiful. Every element has a dragon, got a fire dragon, you've got a water dragon, you've got an earth dragon, you've got an air dragon, and you have an etheric dragon. This is the one that works with the ether. We're probably working through the dragons where there's going to be, I think, a sixth dragon. Maybe spirit and ether aren't the same dragons. Maybe I'm not. Again, I'm just open to however it wants to show up because I'm not going to limit it. Maybe there's more dragons than that. I'm sure. It's just energy. These are how you work with your energy. But they are beings, they're living, and they are going to work with you in the way you've given permission. And if you see them all as bad and, evil, or, then you've got energy working against you. You've still got active shadow. That's the key. Your shadow is very active within you, and it's coming up to be seen. And if you see it as shadow, if you're experiencing this energy in any way as shadow, just love your creations and ask your team, your family of light, to assist you in bringing it back into its beautiful. Oh, we're bringing it back in. Bring it back into, integrate it back to 0 point so it can show up for you again in its beautiful higher expression. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Wow. I'm guessing, I have to say, Deborah doesn't, my hands are doing their own thing. I'm always guessing at what's being done. I do once in a while get strong hints of things to say, like the dragon piece felt like a really strong hint there. So, but there's going to be people that work really beautifully with dragons that are going to feel it in a whole different way, right? It's because their gifts that's the way their gifts work with it, right? None of us work the same piece of the puzzle, right? So everyone's divine gift, they're all, every person connecting in this conversation, and whenever it happens. I know this is a bit early information right now, so at some point, the codes, that the way they're coming through, and the new programs that are being created in these conversations, they're probably going to be, the programmers will probably be the first to work with them. So if this resonates with you, just know you are likely able to see systems and allow the shaping up and the letting go and transmuting and evolving of the new systems. There's a level of, what do they call it, neurodivergence that has to happen here. Okay. Wow. My hands are just active and alive with this beautiful light. Yeah, their auric fields are pulsing, magnetic and lit up. Just allow it to land in your field. Come into your heart and thank your team. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all those beings and family, angels, guides that came in and joined us today, and our God presences. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May it be recorded and made available for all those who are ready. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Just waiting for my hands to show me we're done. Okay, we're done. Thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry, my hair gets so crazy. Yeah, thank you for joining me in these. They're beautiful transmissions, and we're working through the pieces in our own consciousness that help us to bring in these systems, right? So it's the more we practice being unlimited and bypassing the mind, and getting to the root of the seeds of these compressed packets of information that will access our superconscious, right? So yeah, so thank you, and sending you lots of love. Okay, bye now.